Did you know that there are Turks migrated to Poland and Lithuania 600 years ago?
No.
Do you think that they preserved their language and religion?
600 years is a very long time period. If there hasn't been a humanitarian investment for them, it might have been difficult. I didn't know that.
Do you think they could preserve their language and religion?
Did you say Turks? Since the Turks are deeply loyal to their history, they could have preserved.
600?
600 years ago.
No, I didn't know.
Did you know that there are Turks migrated to Poland and Lithuania 600 years ago?
I didn't know.
I can't tell anything because I don't know them, but I know some Tatars. They are not different from us.
If you lose your language, you lose everything. No, I don't know.
Ama onlar Türkiye'yi ve Türkleri çok iyi tanıyor.
Our Turkish friends, welcome to Lithuania. We have been living in Lithuania for 600 years, but Islam as a religion hasn't lost its purity. There are 7,000 Muslim Tatars here.
I live in Vilnius, but I was born here. I come here often. My daughter married Rustem, and I have been to Turkey 2 times.
We send our greetings to Turkish people. We love you all very much. We want to come to Turkey.
Selamun aleyküm.
Aleykümselam.
In this documentary, we make mention of Turkic communities that aren't known in Turkey very well. And this episode is about Kipchak Turks, who have been living in Poland, Lithuania and Belarus for centuries. In other words, about Polish and Lithuanian Tatars and their history, culture and daily lives. Today, Polish, Lithuanian and Belarus Turks have a population of around 21,000 and they've lost their languages. But since they have been unduly attached to Islam religion, they could have preserved their identity for 600 years. Some questions may come to mind. Why did this Turkic community, named as Polish and Lithuanian Tatars, migrate thousands of miles away from their homeland? What was the historic moment that has caused this migration? Which force did drift them away from their homes? To answer all these questions, we have to set out on a journey in time and go hundreds of years back in history. The most crowded Turkic tribe has settled in Poland and Lithuania at the end of the 14th century and at the beginning of the 15th centuries. Islam entered into this geography approximately 6 centuries ago, with the Kipchak Turks escaping from the dynasty wars in Golden Horde and Crimean Khanate. At those times, Giray dynasty requested support from Lithuanian Great Princedom to take the throne of the Khanate.
The first Tatar village was established in the 14th century. At that time, Han Toktamış requested right of sanctuary with his army from Great Prince Vytautas. In 1397, great numbers of Tatars started to come here. As the end of the 14th century until the midst of the 17th century, they came here in waves of migration. Then the assimilation began for first the Crimean Tatars and then for all the Tatars.
In 1412, the son of Toktamış Khan, Celaleddin, has requested help from Witold to regain the throne of Golden Horde. And consequently, he conquered Kiev with his support and ascended to the Kipchak throne. In the 16th and 17th centuries, by reason of the expanding of Great Moscow Princedom, the people escaping to Lithuania and the prisoners having been captured during the wars of Lithuania with the Ottoman Empire and Crimean Khanate have settled in Lithuania, and this caused the population of Muslim Turks increase in the region. At that time, upon request of the prince, land was given to the Tatar Beys on condition that they would fight for the princedom. Tatars, having settled in Poland and Lithuania, consisted of a few social groups. The most important ones of these groups were the Prince Tatars, who were loyal to the prince, and Kazakh Tatars, who were subjected to them and who did their military service as privates. Most of the Tatars in this region were composed of big families. There were 6 flags: Ulan, Ulushin, Naiman, Jalayir, Kongrat, Barın. For 600 years, Tatars served Poland and Lithuania, defended their borders and participated in all the revolts started for freedom during the period of division. Catholic Polish people and Muslim Tatars have defended their country against the Russians together.
Tatars made a major contribution to this country. For example, a lot of military works were borrowed from Tatars. A lot of weapons were brought here from Turkey and from Tatars. They formed special cavalcades and took on different tasks. During the era of great Lithuanian princedom, there were around 50 Lithuanian Tatar generals in the army.
Another migration started amongst the Polish and Lithuanian Turks. Between 1831 and 1863, Turks rebelled against Russians together with the Polish people, and after these rights were quelled gorily, they migrated to the Ottoman lands in waves. Tatars lost their language, which belonged to the Kipchak Turk group in the midst of the 16th century. The most important reason of this is the will of the Lithuanian Union to place the Tatar ruling class on an equality judicially with Polish and Lithuanian ruling classes, on condition that they learn the local language. Another reason is the marriages between the bachelor Tatar warriors and the Polish and Lithuanian girls. Since they've gone away from their homes to fight, these warriors couldn't have taught Tatar language to their children. Although they were bestowed a privilege on having the religion of their fathers, since they stayed with their mothers all the time, these children learned Polish and Lithuanian, so the efficiency of Kipchak Turkic has decreased and lost gradually in time. Today, Tatars are given an Islamic Tatar name besides their Polish and Lithuanian names. In their spoken language, there are still some Turkic religious terms left, such as Bayram, Namaz, Oruç, and Turkic number names.
I don't know Tatar language.
Ramazan bayram, Kurban bayram, Aşure bayram, Mevlud bayram.
There are Turkic words related to religion. For example, Bayram, Aşure bayramı, Allah, abdest, namaz, hayat, elif, Yasin, bardak. And there are some food names too.
Where did you learn Turkish?
I started to learn it here. Because after Lithuania gained independence, Turkey has been the first country to recognize it. And right after that, Turkish embassy was opened here, and a Turkish instructor was sent for giving language lessons to us. I started to study with him. Then I stayed in Ankara for 1 year and improved my Turkish there.
A great majority of Tatars live in the capital city Vilnius and around. According to the official census reports of 1989, their population is 5,188. Although it seems as a small number compared to the population of Lithuania, which is 3.5 million, Tatars are very determinate in the country. After the disintegration of Soviet Union, nationalistic movements started in 1988 amongst the Lithuanian Tatars, and as a result of these, various Tatar associations were established. The Lithuanian Tatars Association organizes festivals, meetings, summer camps, song and dance feasts aiming to preserve, continue to keep alive their traditions, and it gives a great importance to the education. To establish a communication between Tatars and spread the Tatar culture amongst them, a newspaper titled as Lithuanian Tatar is published. What incited these intensive activities of culture and communication was a painful event Tatars have experienced recently. After the First World War, Tatar villages were allocated to 3 different countries: Lithuania, Poland and Belarus. Having to live within different borders, Tatars lost contact with each other and most of the villages were evacuated. Only a few persons remained who still remember the good old days in these villages and their streets filled with sounds of joyful people.
Once there were 20 houses here, but now only one of them is left. The mosque was there, near the bushes, but then it was burnt down. Till the war, there were 20 families living in this village. There were 3 brothers named Bekir, Muhammad and Ronka Bazarevsky. They have ranches there. We used to come here for festivals. My aunt and grandmother used to live in the bazaar. They were buried in that cemetery.
For example, the Tatars living here started to feel like Lithuanians. The Tatars living in Poland feel like Polish. And the Tatars living in Belarus feel like Belarusians. And this situation separates us. When it is said Polish Tatars, only the Polish roots are understood. Tatar roots are kept in the background. Turkic roots disappear.
Tatars in this region were struck another blow after the Second World War. The communist regime restricted and forbade religious activities. Following the war, there were only 2 mosques left in this region to perform the ritual prayers of Islam.
If Soviet Union didn't disintegrate, Lithuanian Tatars would disappear. But now we have great hopes for the future. I wish next generations will keep our culture alive like our ancestors did.
At the end of the 20th century, in conjunction with the advance of liberation movements in the Baltic countries, Islamic activities came to life again. Today in Vilnius, Nemezis, Kırk Tatar, Kaunas and Raizai cities of Lithuania, religious activities are carried on. In Vilnius, there is only a small prayer room in an old apartment building. Although this place doesn't meet the needs of the Muslim community, the municipality of Vilnius doesn't seem to have the tendency to build a new mosque for them. An imam, meaning a Muslim religious leader appointed by the Directorate of Religious Affairs for the Turkish workers there, renders service to the Muslim community here. Since the prayer room in Vilnius is also a center for the Tatar society, The Vilnius Tatar Association operates here too. Additionally, lectures are given on Tatar and Turkic languages, history and religion in this building. The successful students are chosen and they are given education scholarships in Turkey.
They go abroad like the Lithuanians do. For example, we offer them to attend the Sunday schools to learn Turkish or Tatar language, but they don't show any interest to it because nowadays English is more important. So they go to English courses. We ask them, why don't you learn your own language? They say, yes, I'm a Tatar, but where and with whom will I speak this language? Where will I use it?
The mosque, which was built for Tatars in Kaunas in 1930 at the 500th anniversary of the Grand Duke Vytautas' death, is the biggest mosque in Lithuania.
This mosque worked for until...
This mosque has been in service until 1950. Then it has been used as a meeting center and children's library. It was left until 1988, when it was given back to Muslim Tatar community. This mosque is opened mostly in weekends. And, of course, we come all together here for Friday prayers. On Sundays, we gather here for educational purposes, such as teaching Islam to the women. On Saturdays, I go to other mosques in different towns and villages to give lessons to children about Islam. Besides that, since 1994, we have been organizing summer schools for children. They learn how to perform the ritual prayers and the history of Islam a week long.
The three biggest Tatar settlements in Lithuania are Nemezis, Kırk Tatar and Raizai. In Nemezis, decorated with the sweet homes endemic in the region, approximately 120 Tatars live today. Nemezis is an old settlement near Vilnius, and most of the Tatars live here works in their own farms. Once having been good and renowned warriors, Tatars have been placed in this village, which is one of the oldest Tatar settlements in Lithuania, to defend the castle and estate of the Grand Duke Vytautas. Being close to the old and new cemeteries, Nemezis Mosque is located in the center of the village. The first mosque, having been built at the end of the 17th century, was burnt down, but it was rebuilt in 1904. Unlike the mosques in the Eastern Muslim countries, Lithuanian mosques have been built of timber and are in humble appearances. Since they are constructed as necessitated by the natural conditions and in quadrangular form, similar to the church architecture, Lithuanian mosques are considered as the most interesting mosques of the Islamic world. Since it's forbidden in Lithuania, the sound of azan isn't heard from the mosques' small minarets. Azan is recited only inside of the mosques. Lithuanian Tatars know that, for not to forget their forefathers, they should preserve their past, and so they pay special attention and take great care to their graveyards. In religious holidays, the most visited places by the Lithuanian Muslims are the cemeteries.
What do you do for retaining your religion and your traditions?
We go to the mosque and visit the cemetery.
Do you carry on all your customs?
No, we don't perform 5-time prayer.
Islamic principles are applied in the funeral ceremonies, and the Tatar is definitely buried in a Muslim cemetery.
Because of Christianity atmosphere, a lot of things changed. For example, there is no circumcision. Birth ceremony is simplified. Imam goes to the house, recites azan, then the visitors dine together and they are dismissed. That's all. Nowadays, young people don't go to the mosque very often. Maybe they don't feel the need of it.
Another one of the old Tatar settlements in Lithuania is Kırk Tatar village. Once have been the best soldiers of Lithuania, Tatars earn their keep by farming today. In this village, longing for the bright days of the past, today only 130 Tatars live. One of the oldest mosques of Lithuania, Kırk Tatar village mosque, was built in the 16th century, in the era of great Vistaustas, and it was the only mosque in this region. It was burnt down in 1815 and was rebuilt by Muslims later. The last restoration was made in 1993 with the contributions of the Turkish consulate, and the opening ceremony took place in a festive atmosphere. In the Tatar Muslim graveyard of the village, the old and the new cemeteries are side by side. Having been a religious center for the Lithuanian Tatars since the old days, Raizai village is located near Alytus city. In the vicinity of Raizai, there are 9 other Tatar villages which are within the borders of Belarus now. Chivalrous Tatars have won many wars in the glittering armors of the past, but today their most important source of income is agriculture. It is believed that the first mosque of Raizai village was built in the 14th century, but the location of the old mosque isn't known accurately.
This mosque is open all the time. It hasn't been closed even in the Soviet era. I am standing next to the pulpit now. This is the oldest piece in the mosque. This pulpit was in Bazar village previously. It has been made in 1684. As you can see, I am holding the Quran. It has been written by hand in 1831, but we don't know who has written it.
We met by chance with the family members of our guide Adas, who came for visiting the cemetery in Raizai village.
Why did you come here?
I came for a cemetery visit. My 2 grandmothers and some other relatives are buried here. We have to show respect to the memory of our ancestors. If we don't do this, the cemeteries will lie in ruins. We have to educate our children too, because this is our lineage and pride.
Our children must know the location of our forefathers' graves. This is very important, but some Tatar families don't do that.
We are guests in a farmhouse in Raizai village now. The warmth and hospitality in this house, in which 3 generations of a Tatar family lives, feel very familiar. We are affected and deeply moved by this reception. It feels like to meet an old friend with whom we shared many things years ago, but we couldn't keep in touch.
Would you say a few words in Tatar language?
Nobody taught Tatar language to me, so I don't know.
What do you think about the future of the Tatars?
The Lithuanian people don't like us, but we want to know our language and culture.
This is my homeland. We have been living here for a long time. Because of the Soviet Union, we had to go to city, but now we are back in our village. We came back to our village, but not to our home. We bought this building and then we hardly made a house out of it. Now we live here. We bought a few cows, we cultivate the soil, we do farming, but everything is too difficult for us.
I am single for now, but I hope to meet a beautiful Muslim girl. I will have a big family and we will live in a long and good life.
In fact, Tatars have changed a lot physically as a consequence of the marriages with the Lithuanians. But their most distinctive feature, slant-eyedness, inherited from Central Asia, has been resuming for centuries. The easiest way to distinguish a Tatar from a Lithuanian is to look at their eyes.
I believe that the Lithuanian Tatars have a future. The next generation will carry on our activities. We try to revive our traditions which have been lost for 50 years. This is the paradox of life. In the era of Soviet Union, when it was forbidden to continue the traditions, everybody was trying to keep them alive. But now there are very few people to learn their culture. It's very interesting. When restricted, people tend to protect their traditions, but when it is allowed, nobody shows an interest.
We would like to welcome people who are in cultural activities here. Because the more people come to visit us, the more publicity of our cultures can be made. There are only a few programs on television about Turkey. They only know Antalya. We come from the same roots. We mention that, and we are proud of Turkey's being a prosperous country. But they have to see it on the television too. Turkey can help us to be able to do that. So if such groups come here more often, it will be more helpful and beneficial for us. It is also very useful to make camps with Turks too. It is true that we lost our language, but we can learn Turkish. They are very closely related languages, and it will make us familiar with your culture.
Lithuania is a small country in the northeast of Europe on the shores of the Baltic Sea, a country having sheltered some of our relatives for centuries. If you happen to pass by here, don't go away without visiting the Tatar villages, which continue their existence with their dainty mosques.